So we have to talk about multi-cloud now then, because one of
Sure.
the drivers that we hear about from vendors that are selling their multi-cloud wares is, well, of course people are in multi-cloud because businesses got to be in the Azure cloud to do this thing that optimizes their cost or gives them a feature they didn't have or whatever.
I too like to get
What's your
most of my
take on that?
analysis from people attempting to sell me something. I'm sure
Yeah,
it's the best way to get
exactly. Well, exactly. We want to dispel the FUD and the nonsense from the marketing folks and get down to what's really
Theoretically, I
going
don't go
on.
multi-cloud. I go all in on GCP or Azure or AWS. Great. What are you going to sell me then? Oh, nothing? Huh. Gee, I wonder if maybe there's an incentive here.
Well, multi-cloud coming from Corey Quinn is actually an important conversation too, because
Sure.
your brand is so AWS oriented, but the reality is spreading at least a little bit beyond AWS in the practice of enterprises.
Well, let's not kid ourselves either. Multi-cloud is a thing. It is real,
Mhm.
but it's not the way that we're talking about it. It's not the way that we're selling about it. Or that we're selling it. Forrest Brazil had a great article on this recently that I found myself agreeing with basically everything he said in that article. I mean, take a look at me. I have a $2,000 AWS monthly bill. I also pay for GitHub Enterprise, so that's the Azure side. I pay for G Suite because I enjoy pain and the constant excitement of are they going to turn it off today? And I have a couple of ML experiments running on GCP as well. And yeah, these are individual workloads that are not tied to anything else. And yeah, that makes sense. They're best of breed services that I'm using in different ways. Now, most of my infrastructure for things I build is on AWS. But by some definitions, I'm multi cloud there. But if you try and sell me a dashboard to manage all those three different things in one space, I'm going to laugh in your face because I don't need that. I wouldn't want that. And there's no value in that for me. You see similar things. Shadow IT winds up creeping up everywhere, and there's always going to be that type of behavior. But in almost every company, it's going to be, yeah, we have a primary cloud and then single digits of percentage of spend on other clouds. Very often, great, we're going to back everything up. Of course, I have backups on GCP. Are you nuts? My entire brand is making fun of AWS for a living. So, yeah, I'd like to be able to rehydrate the thing in the event that they finally snap and kill me. So, that's going to be valuable. But I don't need it to be active active. I don't need to seamlessly fail over to GCP in the event of that happening. And that's okay. I just need the business to be able to resuscitate itself.
So okay, so what's my driver then for multi-cloud then as the typical enterprise? Is it a cost driver? Oh, I can save a few bucks if I move this workload, or is it functionality? I need to be in GCP because reasons. I need to be in Azure because reasons.
It also comes down to legacy IT vendors in many respects. The cloud vendors cannot play this way, and we're learning that slowly. If you just wound up saying we're going to go full Cisco for our network and give Cisco a blank check, and not to pick on Cisco, any vendor, you can do
Mhm.
it with Dell, you do it with CDW, doesn't matter. But if you say we are doing all of our procurement through you, tell us what we need, give us everything, they are going to ride you like a metaphorical and possibly literal pony, and it's not going to be great. You've got to keep your vendors honest in that sense. Cloud doesn't work that way. If you wind up finding that the cloud vendor is screwing you over in some way, first, that would be headline news everywhere because how did they do it? That's kind of amazing. The worst they could do is either wind up giving you a terrible architectural design, which frankly, you should have people able to vet that independently. But it's also so atypical for any vendor. This is not AWS fanboyism. I see it from GCP. I see it from Azure. I even mostly see it from Oracle and IBM when we're talking about their cloud stuff. I know I love picking on them, but here we are. It's There is no nefarious plot to wind up screwing customers over across the board when it comes to day-to-day usage. Because there can't be. How would that manifest?
Hmm. So
Mm.
I think that the argument that most people like to make about doing multi-cloud for a single application is that it avoids the lock-in. What if I need to get out of AWS? What if I work with another company who says you can't run your stuff in AWS because they're a competitor to us?
Yes. There are a couple of things right there. First, what if I'm locked in? I don't want to be locked in. Spoiler, you are. IAM is different between all the cloud providers. The network security stuff is going to be a massive pain. And not for nothing, you're all in on AWS. You hired people who are all in on AWS. Surprise, we're moving to Azure now. Step one, replace the third of your staff that just quit on the spot because they can take their incredibly deep AWS knowledge down the road to someone else where they can continue to grow there rather than starting over in the new cloud from day one.
Well, Corey,
I know it's
this
always
is
day
in a
one.
way this
Yeah.
is in a way an answer to the question you just posed. What's the advantage of a cloud provider really kind of riding their customers? Well, if they're locked in, they kind of can. That you could make that argument.
Sure, you could, but how would it manifest? I'm not saying that I'm not saying they're not incentivized to, and I'm not saying that these are somehow benevolent souls. But what would they do? Would theoretically AWS now decides to what, crank up the cost of everything, or take that a half step back, not offer as decent terms on enterprise discount addenda to contracts? In theory, sure, but A, we haven't seen it, and B, that would spark an exodus. Because, hey, once you're locked in, they start treating you like crap. Suddenly, all the fear mongering about multi cloud becomes true. It hasn't become true, and we have 15 years of history, at least in one vendor, to look at for that. This is why I'm so angry whenever GCP does something like start charging for things that were previously free or jack the Maps API pricing. It's you're eroding confidence in the cloud industry wide. Stop it. You're only hurting yourself. You're not, the economics do not look like you think they do. But they're Google. They're smarter than me. Just ask them.